An old city is hidden in the middle of the desert that seems to be part of a story. This is the oldest skyscraper city in the world. The city's skyline is covered with hundreds of apartments, and some are up to 11 floors high. Think about it, today's skyscrapers are made of concrete and steel, but this city is 2000 years old and made only of mud. Now, the question is, who built this city? Why are the buildings so tall? And how did they do all this 2000 years ago? This is the unique city of Shibam in Yemen, which is also called an archaeological wonder. Welcome back to Past Empires videos once again. If you compare it to Manhattan, which is a part of New York, Shibam has its own special thing. This city is only 330 meters wide and 240 meters long, which means that this city is as big as the number of apartments in modern cities. However, the population of Shibam is only 7,000 and its population density is quite high, meaning that more people live here in a very small area, and of course it is also many years older than normal cities. So old that even during the Roman Empire, people were building tower houses in Shibam. But Shibam is not only special, its environment also makes it even more precious. People in the entire region use mud bricks, but such tall buildings are only seen in Shibam. This is quite strange, but what is even more surprising is that despite having so much space, why did they not spread this city sideways but only built it high? Shibam is in Yemen, a place that you may have only heard about in news headlines. But today you are going to see a different side of this country. The story of Shibam tells the story of the harsh environment of the people living here. A vibrant community that is facing more challenges, and the city itself is now in danger. But before we hear the story of the people of Shibam, there is a question that comes to mind: why was there a need to build a city in the middle of the desert? The answer to this question is hidden in the geography of Yemen. If you look at the map of Yemen, orange and red show the places where people live, but most of Yemen is empty. Most people live in the western parts of the country, in the mountains where there are cities like Sana'a, or in areas like Aden on the coast. The central part of the country is a large desert where hardly anyone lives. But here in a creek on a plateau you find human settlements. One such settlement is Shibam. These creeks are formed for a reason that is very important for human life. Water Shibam is located in the valley of Hyder Death Valley. The valley is actually called a dry riverbed that is flooded most of the year. It remains dry in parts, but during the rainy season rivers flow here, and this water can be stored for drinking and is also used for farming. Because of this water, Shibam became an ideal place to build a settlement near the valleys in desert areas. Because of this water, Shibam also became an important part of the Asian trade network. The people living here used to trade spices and incense sticks between India and Africa. Shibam is also mentioned in Greek sources, and it has also been a part of many kingdoms and empires, but it was a new name for European explorers. In 1893, when Western travelers first visited here, they were not sure if it was a rock or a mountain when they saw it from a distance. But it was not a rock, but rather Shibam. About 500 houses stand in the middle of a valley in a small place. European travelers compared the city of Shibam to Chicago. Perhaps because in 1885 a building in Chicago was built in the world. The first skyscrapers were considered to be a building built on a steel structure. But Shibam is quite different because it uses clay instead of steel. The people who settled here faced extremely difficult conditions. The weather here is often hotter than 40 degrees Celsius, and there are no trees to provide shade. The desert stone is so hard that it can only be used to build the foundation of the building. That is why the people here started living on local materials. They made mud from clay and made bricks from it, which were dried in the sun. 16 workers could make 8,000 bricks in a day, and the houses built from these bricks have a life of about 300 years. But maintaining the city is a continuous process. The materials they use also have an impact on the design of the buildings. To strengthen the foundation, the base of the house was kept wider. The walls were kept up to 1 meter thick from the bottom, and their thickness at the top was only 30. The bricks are a centimeter thin. After laying them, they were covered with mortar plaster, but this was quite challenging for the upper floors. The upper parts of the buildings were covered with white lime plaster, due to which the upper part remains waterproof and cool. In this desert, tall buildings work to keep the walls cool. Due to the close proximity, The sun's heat does not fall directly on the walls, and the clay plaster acts as an insulator that does not allow heat to enter. In addition, the reflective properties of the white lime further reduce the heat. But the question is, why didn't they apply white lime plaster on the entire buildings? The simple answer is that lime was very expensive at that time, and that's why it became a status symbol. The most important buildings like mosques were completely covered with white lime. But there are other ways to show status. The doors of apartment blocks are made of craft wood on which very beautiful designs can be seen. But building such tall buildings has its own challenges. There are no elevators in these houses, so how do people manage this? The people here see it as a sport. Going up and down 2 to 3 floors every day is normal for them, but for the elderly it is quite difficult. But not only people, but also large items and modern things have to be carried up. Today, the people of Shibam use refrigerators and air conditioning units, and to carry these items up, they are pulled up by ropes from the ceiling because the stairs become thinner after the 4th floor. Each floor has a specific purpose. The ground floor is for storage and shops, which were previously closed due to the danger of wild animals. The first floor is used for animals. The second floor is for men and guests. The third floor is the family area where the kitchens are also built. The top floors are used for sleeping. But the real question is still the same: why was such a high city built 2000 years ago when the desert was empty? People in ancient times often built settlements on mountains or high altitudes. One of the main reasons for this was that there was better protection from wild animals and enemy attacks. But when space is limited, you have to go higher. According to archaeological excavations, people were already building 4-story houses in this region 2000 years ago, but Shibam is still much higher than other cities. Hydra Death Valley was often the target of attacks. That is why the houses here are built so close that their walls act as city walls. People wanted to expand the city horizontally, but there was very little free space. That is why they decided to expand the city vertically in 700 AH, 1301. But the answer to why there was so little space here lies in an event that happened 500 years ago that changed Shibam forever. 2 major floods in 1298 and 1532 destroyed large parts of the city. At that time, Shibam was surrounded by water like a peninsula. These floods gave the city the shape we see today. Since then, the people here have started building tall houses. This city was built by the same people who have lived here for centuries. Shibam is an example of human determination where, despite difficulties, people have built a unique city. But threats to this peaceful and unique community still exist today. In 2008, a major cyclone hit Yemen, which also caused severe flooding. Some of the buildings in Shibam collapsed and many people lost their lives. But there could have been more damage here if their houses had not been high. Another major threat is the ongoing war in Yemen, which has had the biggest impact on inflation. Today, a worker can hardly buy anything. And then there was the incident in 2019 when a terrorist killed 4 South Koreans and their guide. Due to war and fear, tourism has completely disappeared here. Explosions have been happening inside and outside the city, which has a bad effect on the local people. The tourism that used to be here has now completely disappeared, which was once the only source of income for many families here. But despite all these dangers, Shibam is still standing and its people are proud of their city. They love their city so much that they praise it everywhere. The people here live shoulder to shoulder and are quite social with their neighbors and friends. If one family is in trouble, the other families take care of it because they know that they will also get help if needed. All of this is so interconnected that the common doors of some houses even go up to the 3rd floor, meaning that the elderly do not have to go down to go from one house to another. Here, 3 to 4 families live together in one house. When we see all this, we understand that this place is much more than a news headline. Shibam is a great example of human creativity. The people here have successfully managed to live in a harsh region with limited resources and a climate that is not suitable for humans. Although concrete and steel may be used here in today's era, these people are still keeping the old customs of their city alive. I hope you will like and share this video of past empires. Thank you very much for your loving comments. I will see you in the next wonderful video.